Hello everyone, welcome back. We're doing another trade tree video. I've been wanting to do one of these for the last couple of weeks. We're going to do an interesting one as we look back at how the Mantha deal shaped up for both the Washington Capitals and the Detroit Red Wings. And we'll go to all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Hockey Channel. Remember, for beginners video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all your support. We're never to us help you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget the subscribe button down below and don't forget to comment in the comment section below so we can also discuss today's video. So in today's video, we've got another trade tree video here to discuss. I haven't done one in a couple of weeks since the Tyler Toffoli trade tree video, but I want to do another couple ones over the next few weeks. So we're going to do another one here. We're going to start with a trade tree that happened back on April 12th, 2021, just before our trade deadline happened that year. And it was a really interesting trade that happened at that current time. And the trade was as follows. The Washington Capitals acquired Anthony Mantha from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for four pieces. That was young forward Jacob Vrana, veteran Richard Panik, a 2021 first-round pick, and a 2022 second-round pick. So it was an interesting deal there for both sides. The Capitals got a solid top six power forward who had been a fantastic offensive power forward for the Detroit Red Wings for quite some time. The Wings got a young goal-scoring forward in Vrana, a veteran leader in Panik, and a couple of draft picks. So we'll start with the Capitals side first because it was an interesting one. So after Mantha was acquired by Washington, he would spend the rest of that 2020-2021 season with the Capitals, putting up 8 points in 14 games, was a decent player for them. Then the following season, he had 23 points in 37 games with the Capitals, didn't look overly good. The following year, he had 27 points in 67 games with the Caps and was starting to not fit in overly well with Washington after the second full season in Washington. So at the beginning of his third year, he was entering the final year of his contract. The Capitals weren't being an overly great team that year, but Mantha actually had one of his better seasons in Washington. He only played 56 games, which was 11 less than the year prior, but had 20 goals instead of 11 and 34 points instead of 27. So he would have played a lot better. His value was up higher, and with him being in the final year of his deal, the Capitals were willing to retain money, so they retained half of his salary and flipped him to Vegas in exchange for 2 draft picks. That was a 2024 second round pick and 2026 fourth round pick. So 2 draft picks go to the Capitals as the Golden Knights acquired Anthony Mantha. So for the Capitals, they get 2 pieces for Mantha, and they seem to work all right. The 2024 second round pick they kept. It was like 51 or 49 or something like that for the Capitals, and they used it to select D prospect Leon Mugli last draft. So it was a decent pick up there for the Capitals. Mugli looks like he could eventually be a solid third pair D prospect there for the Capitals, so they at least get a solid prospect there, and I think that could be a really good pickup there long term. And they still have that 2026 fourth round pick. So the Capitals branch of this trade tree is done. They acquired Mantha. After 2.5 years, moved Mantha at the trade deadline to Vegas, got 2 draft picks. One of the draft picks turned into a young prospect defenseman. One of the other draft picks they still have. So that's it for the Capitals for this trade tree and for their branch of it. So Mantha turns them into 2 draft picks, which just turn them into a prospect defenseman and draft pick. So interesting note there. When it comes to the Red Wings side of things, they got 4 pieces. They got Jacob Vrana, they got Richard Panik, they got a first round pick and a second round pick. So some really good pickups there for the Detroit Red Wings. So first up, they got Vrana. Now he was supposed to be a solid 20-30 goal scorer for the Red Wings like he was in Washington to sort of help them get a young player back for Anthony Mantha. So it was an interesting pickup there. He put up 8 goals and 11 points in the last 11 games he played with Detroit in that current season. After he was dealt, he looked pretty good. The following season, he was injured quite a bit. He only put up 13 goals and 19 points in 26 games. There were really good signs of him still being a really good goal scorer, but he could not stay healthy. The year after, he only played in 5 NHL games, putting up a goal and 2 points. Didn't even make the team, I don't think, at some points. It was placed on waivers, was sent down. After not overly great stuff from Vrana that year in the 2022-2023 season at the trade deadline, the Red Wings would flip him again. They get 2 things in return for him. They get Dylan McLaughlin and a 2025 7th round pick. So it was a very low return as Vrana had not been playing overly well for the Detroit Red Wings. So the Blues get him. McLaughlin was a pending UFA player who was mostly an AHLer. He spent the rest of the year in the AHL, left as a free agent, so that branch is dead there for the Red Wings. The 2025 7th round pick they still have at this point, haven't traded it, and the 2025 draft hasn't come around yet. So that's what ends Vrana's branch. So they get the 2025 7th round pick, they still have that. They get McLaughlin for the rest of that contract year, and then he was gone. So Vrana did not turn out to be overly useful to them, was injured a lot, didn't really look overly good in Detroit colors, and the return wasn't overly great either. So they still have a 7th round pick for the Vrana move. When it comes to the 2 draft picks, they didn't really make any moves with them. The draft pick that they got from the Washington Capitals wound up being 23rd in the 2021 draft, that first round pick. Well, they made a draft day trade up. They moved the 2021 to 23rd overall pick coupled it with a 2021 48th overall pick and a 2021 138th overall pick, so I think it was a second and a 5th round pick. Traded that to Dallas Stars to get the 15th overall pick, and with the 15th overall pick, they used it to select young goaltending prospect Sebastian Cossa. So it cost them a 1st, a 2nd, and a 5th round pick. That 1st round pick they got from Washington, but they trade up and they got Cossa. Cossa looks like a very fantastic goalie prospect, one of the better goalie prospects in the NHL. Sure, he hasn't had the best of starts to his pro level career, played a lot of ECHL last year, but he's looked all right this year at the AHL level. Has a .922 save percentage and 2.24 GAA in 16 games over in the AHL this year. He's actually looked quite good. He's got a little bit of confidence for him, and he's definitely the Red Wings' future net. So he's not at the NHL level yet, probably won't be for another year or two, but he's a very fantastic piece there the Red Wings got in this deal. So the Red Wings do get their future goaltending prospect, the future starter in this deal. So it was an interesting move there from the Red Wings, but it was a draft day deal. They moved that Capitals 1st round pick with 2 other picks, traded up to get that 15th overall pick and used it to select Cossa. So that's a really good move there from the Red Wings. When it comes to the 2022 2nd round pick they had, that wound up being 52nd overall. They kept that pick, used it to select Dmitry Buchelnikov. Buchelnikov, I think, is an unsigned prospect. I'm not sure if he's left the Red Wings organization or if he's just unsigned right now. So they get a decent prospect. He's playing over in the KHL, so he may come over, he may not come over. We'll have to wait and see, but that's a decent prospect there. Could eventually maybe be like a 4th, 3rd line player, so that's an interesting pickup there. But the one trade that had the biggest tree out of that trade was actually Richard Panik, which is probably the smallest piece of that trade. Panik spent the rest of that current season with the Red Wings in the Red Wings organization after the trade, putting up a goal and 4 points in 12 games. Didn't look overly bad, but he was a veteran. He still had, I think, a year or 2 left on his contract, and the Red Wings didn't see a fit with him long term, so they wound up flipping him in the upcoming off season. And they made that deal with the New York Islanders. They shared Richard Panik as well as the 52nd overall pick in the 2021 draft, so that wound up being Aatu Räty. So the Red Wings moved a 2nd round pick and Panik to the New York Islanders in exchange for Nick Leddy. So it was an interesting move there. The Red Wings needed some more defensive help. We're trying to get back to the playoffs, so they moved Panik, who was not going to be a really good fit there long term, as well as a 2nd round pick, acquired Leddy, who at the time was a solid top 4 defenseman. Leddy spent that one season after being acquired in the offseason with the Red Wings, putting up a goal and 16 points in 55 games. Didn't work overly well. I think he was in the final year of his deal too, so he was a penny UFA, and the Red Wings were once again on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. So the Red Wings made another deal on this trade tree branch, and that was that they coupled Luke Witkowski along with Nick Leddy and traded those two to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Oscar Sundqvist, Jake Wallman, and a 2023 2nd round pick. So it was an interesting trade there for the Red Wings. Like we said, Leddy was in the final year of his deal. They packaged Witkowski, moved on from those guys. They got 3 interesting pieces: Wallman, Sundqvist, and a 2023 2nd round pick. Now the easier one's probably to discuss what happened with Oscar Sundqvist. Sundqvist would spend the rest of that year in Detroit, putting up 4 goals and 8 points in 18 games. Didn't look overly bad, and he would stay in Detroit the following year, where he put up 7 goals and 21 points in 52 games, and didn't look overly bad. But once again, the Red Wings were out of a playoff spot that following trade deadline, and once again, Sundqvist was a penny UFA player. So with them out of a playoff spot again, nearing their 2023 trade deadline, they flipped Oscar Sundqvist, who was in the final year of his deal, to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2023 4th round pick. They would keep that 4th round pick and use it to select D prospect Larry Keenan. Keenan looks like a very fantastic D prospect. I don't think he's signed an NHL contract yet. He's still playing over in, I think it's juniors it is, so an interesting pickup there for the Detroit Red Wings, but they do get a draft pick and a prospect out of this deal, so that's a really good pickup there. When it comes to the 2023 2nd round pick the Red Wings acquired from St. Louis, they used it to select D prospect Andrew Gibson. Now at the time, Gibson looked like a very fantastic prospect there for the Detroit Red Wings. He was looking like he would eventually be a top 4 right shot defenseman, which looked good. But then just last offseason, the Red Wings made an interesting move, flipping Andrew Gibson to the Nashville Predators in exchange for young prospect forward Jesse Kiskinen and a 2024 2nd round pick, which I think was like 51st overall. It was an interesting move there for the Red Wings as they moved off of a solid young D prospect to acquire a young forward prospect who could eventually be a solid top 9 forward and a 2nd round pick. So that was an interesting move. They got a 2nd round pick and a decent top 9 forward in Kiskinen, who's still playing over in juniors, in exchange for Gibson, who may be a decent player eventually for the Predators now. But the interesting thing is they flipped that 2nd round pick, paired it with another piece that they got in this deal, and that's Jake Wallman. Wallman had spent 2.5 years in Detroit after the acquisition from St. Louis. That half half season after being acquired from St. Louis, he had 4 assists in 19 games. The following season, he had 18 points in 63 games. The following season, he had 21 points, including a career-high 12 goals in 63 games, but I guess the Red Wings didn't see a fit with him long-term, wanted to shake up their defense a little bit. In a surprising move, they would deal that second-round pick they got for Andrew Gibson and Jake Wallman to the San Jose Sharks for future considerations. That kills off that end of the branch. They get nothing for those 2 pieces. So that's a quite surprising deal, especially given the fact that Wallman's already surpassed his career high in points with the San Jose Sharks just a mere 25-30 games into the season. So it's quite surprising that the Red Wings did that move. That killed off 2 pieces of that deal. So it's an interesting move there for the Red Wings, but a lot of interesting pieces happened during this deal. So just to recap this sort of trade here, the Capitals acquired Anthony Mantha. Mantha would have spent 2 full seasons and 2 half seasons in Detroit before he was dealt at the trade deadline to Vegas in exchange for a 4th and a 2nd round pick. The 2nd round pick is changed into defensive prospect Leon Mugli. The Capitals still have that 4th round pick, so that's what the Capitals have as of this deal. For the Red Wings, they got 4 pieces. They got 2022 2nd round pick. They used it to select Dmitry Buchelnikov. I'm not sure if he's an unsigned prospect or if he's left as a UFA from Detroit, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But they got Buchelnikov. They got 2021 1st round pick, which wound up being 23rd overall. Packaged that up with a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick, traded to Dallas for the 15th overall pick in the 2021 draft, and used it to select goaltending prospect Sebastian Cossa. There's a really good goaltending prospect there for the Red Wings. Then they also acquired Jacob Vrana. Vrana never worked out. He spent a year and a half in Detroit before getting flipped at a deadline to St. Louis for Dylan McLaughlin and a 2025 7th round pick. Still have that 7th round pick. McLaughlin wound up leaving as a UFA. He never wound up amounting to anything. And then they also acquired Richard Panik, who they would package with a 2nd round pick, moved to New York I for Nick Leddy. They would then package Nick Leddy the following trade deadline, along with Luke Witkowski to St. Louis for Jake Wallman, Oscar Sundqvist, and the 2nd round pick in the 2023 draft. They would trade Oscar Sundqvist after a year and a half in Detroit to Minnesota in a trade deadline move. And they got a 2023 4th round pick in return, which they used to select defensive prospect Larry Keenan. They then used the 2023 2nd round pick to draft Andrew Gibson, would move Andrew Gibson in 2024 off season to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Jesse Kiskinen and 2024 2nd round pick, and then they would package this 2024 2nd round pick and Jake Wallman to San Jose for future consideration. So all in all, what the teams have at this point in time to show for that deal from the Mantha one, the Caps have 2 pieces, a 2026 4th round pick and Leon Mugli. The Red Wings have 5 pieces to show from that deal. That's Dmitry Buchelnikov, Sebastian Cossa, a 2025 7th round pick, Jesse Kiskinen, and Larry Keenan. So all in all, was there really a winner in this deal besides some of the other teams that these teams traded with? Like, I don't know if Washington really won that deal because Mantha never amounted to anything. I don't know if Detroit ever won that deal because Detroit never really amounted to anything either. Vrana never amounted to anything. They had a lot of interesting deals in that trade tree, so we'll have to wait and see who winds up winning this deal. Currently, I think at this point, Detroit probably does win the deal because of the potentiality of having Cossa as their starting level goaltender, but honestly, this is really a not win-win deal for either side of things. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this trade down in the comment section below and what your opinion is on this. Who do you think won this deal? Do you think it was a smart move for Mantha to be dealt from Detroit to Washington? Do you think it was a smart move from Washington to give up 4 pieces for Mantha? And what do you think about this deal looking back on it? Definitely love to hear your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Or until this video, if you'd like to subscribe down below. Thank you all your support. We're now to without you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment down in the comment section below so you can also discuss in this video. I also have a blog, talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. Leave a link down in the description below. And can't see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.